Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lydia Edwards. I'm the City Councilor for District 1, and I'm the Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Housing and Community Development. I'm joined here by my colleague, Councilor Frank Baker and Councilor Tim McCarthy. I also know that Council President Andrea Campbell is also here and will join us shortly. I want to remind you that this is a public hearing and is being recorded and will be broadcast on Comcast 8, RCN 82, Verizon 1964, and online. Please silence your cell phones and other devices. We will also take public testimony, and I would appreciate it if you would sign in and check off the box if you want to testify. I have some of those sign-in sheets with me right now, and I will only call the names where people indicated that they wanted to testify. At the end of the hearing, if you changed your mind or you forgot to click that you wanted to testify, we'll open it up to allow for folks to also add in any opinions or concerns. When you do testify, please state your name and affiliation and residence, and limit your comments to a few minutes to ensure that all of the comments can be heard and also in some cases be responded to. Today's hearing is on docket 0318. Order for hearing to discuss the Senior Home Repair Program and other housing programs. I have invited several folks from the administration to also come and speak. What we will do very likely is have some public testimony so that we can get a feeling for what people are excited about, what they're concerned about, what their suggestions are for the program. We will then have the city come and testify, and then after that we'll continue on with public testimony. Before we get started, however, I did want to acknowledge the passing of one of our great friends, one of our wonderful mentors, and one of the leaders in housing for the city of Boston, Mr. Bill McGonigal. And so with that, I want to respect his passing with a moment of silence. Thank you. I should just move it closer. I think that's better. No, still nothing? Is it better? We'll see if I can turn it up. We turned it up. Is this better? Thank you very much. So what we will do now is, again, as I stated, we'll start with the public testimony to discuss the program, and then we'll go to the city to respond, if that's okay? All right. So again, calling on the names of people who actually said they wanted to testify today. I have Maria DePina? Maria DePina? Yes. Would you like to come forward to testify? I have you marked as a yes to testify. Yes. And I also have Joanna Santos. Yes. Also, if you can come to one of the microphones on either side. Yeah. Also, for the record, we've been joined by City Councilor Ed Flynn. Right. Okay. Sure. Yes. Ms. DePina?
Yes.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, ready?
Feel free.
Ready?
The microphone's directly in front of you, so you could just talk and...
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm here to talk about how good heart Leo Moss have. He's a wonderful man that encouraged me to be on the house. He also encouraged me how to be responsible on the house. I was really kind of afraid that I was going to lose my house. So when I knew Leo, he was the person that was helping my father a lot. So I'm here to say how good is this program, how is good Leo have his heart to help us being good with the house. So all I'm gonna say, I never have this program yet because I'm kind of new to it. He walked through me to all the whole applications and helped me. So I'm here to say that he's a good man. He's have a good heart. He also like to help one another, and I'm happy for it. And I hope that this is something that will go for all of us. Thank you very much. My name is Maria Depina.
Thank you very much. Ms. Santos? We'll wait for the microphone to come closer to you and get it turned on real quick. And before you speak, I'm going to also invite down Agatha McNair, who also said she'd like to speak. And I am going to have a difficult time with this name, but it's Ms. White, I believe, last name White, Virginia, maybe? Virginia? Oh, wonderful. Okay. So Ms. Santos.
Yeah, I'm very happy with this program because there's a good help, especially for me. I'm the widow. You know, I have a program before. They helped me a lot, but now I have a little problem with in the house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can afford to. I need a help. You know, this is a good program for seniors, especially for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. McNair? Yeah, well, thank you, Ms. McNair.
Yes, the program helped me too, because I needed to have my oven fixed, and I made a phone call, and somebody came over and fixed my oven. So now we went about 2 weeks without being able to cook. I mean, you know, cook in my oven anyways. And they came over and did a good job, and now I'm happy to have the work done, that it was done.
Excellent news. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. White? Yes.
This is Miss White. She's 94 years old. She couldn't hear a word you were saying back there, but she would like to testify. That's why I brought her up.
Oh, great. And she also
Okay.
indicated she wanted to testify.
She did.
So this is great.
Oh,
Worked out well.
There you go.
Well, good afternoon, all of you dignitaries and the citizens of the city. I would like to say that I am certainly in favor of the project. It is one that my attorney discovered as an arm of the city's aid to the elderly. And having lived in my home all my life, it was certainly a financial asset to have a project to help bring that house, which is 100 years old, up to code, to have a new roof, but more particularly, to have people who cared. They cared what they did. They cared about the property that was there, protecting it from disturbance, dirt, dust, old shingles, etc. They cared about the automobiles that were in the street and had them moved. That is what I wanted to bring to you. Not so much in support of the program, although I am, but the care, concern, and aware of the fact that some of us still live in Boston. We have a sentimental feeling toward the city, being born here and never leaving. So that was really what impressed me. Leo beside me, and Miss Coleman to help me, and Thomas Services who did the work are to be complimented. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We'll take a couple more, actually. We'll take some more testimony. I think I had Ms. Virginia White, and then
You go first.
Ms. I'm called White. This is two. Hi.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosalina Santos. I live in 39 Free Street. The thing I want to say, thank you very much to fix my house. And I have the porch, it was really bad. they be fixed. And they give me new roof in the siding. I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much. My house look beautiful. I'm very happy. The thing inside is bad, but I know I do it little by little. The thing that hurt me bad is because my son pushed me to do it. I said, no, I don't going to do it because I don't want to leave you with no bail, no nothing. He said, Ma, come on, do it. And they pushed me, bring me to do it, to sign the paper. After 2 months, he passed away.
Oh,
And the city called me and said, I've improved. So I figured he helped me to do it. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you guys. Because it was not for you, my house never looked the way it looked. It looked beautiful. Outside is a mess, but that's okay. I do it little by little. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Also, a couple more testimony. I have Kingsford Swan. Pamela Robson? Brodson? Brothers, my apologies. I cannot read this name. Marcia Neder, Charles Moore. Somebody at the end, and then I will. After this, we'll have the city. Okay. Did you sign up? Thank you, and if you could just state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kingsford Swan. I live in Jamaica Plain. I've been in my home since 1967 with my family, my parents. They've deceased. I'm in a beautiful area overlooking Franklin Park, the White Stadium. I take very much pride in my home that I've owned. I take care of the property up front. It's very beautiful, flowers, decorating. This project, ASAC, I never heard of the project before. I have a wonderful friend that lives in Winchester. Her name is Peggy Schleicher. She told me about, I used to teach figure skating, and I taught her children, and we're good friends, and we were talking, and she says, you know what, let me look into this, she says, and she told me all about the information in Jamaica Plain, the ASAC program. I spoke to a nice lady named Linda Morfin. I told the situations of what was needed to be done with the house. So I needed a new roof was put on, beautiful roof was put on, it was done in the day. I have had a new kitchen put in, gorgeous, I tiled, new bathroom, walkway going up the stairs. I have two railings. They stay in the back of my deck of the yard. They power washed the siding. Let's see, what else? They put it down into my basement. They open up I have a door that was closed off for many years. And so they open up the door so I can go out into the back of the yard if it makes it easy access for getting out to the yard. They came in, they were very much professional. They came in to work, did the work. I just turned over the keys and I let them come in, which at first, the very beginning, I was a little uncomfortable with that because I'm very much personal and I'm very fussy how things are running. But I said, you know what, this is exciting. This is something that needs to be done. I had a major hole in my roof and it was leaking in. And I've had people come by and giving me all kinds of brochures to say, we would love to do your work, we would love to do your work. So as I said, the program was fantastic. I'm very pleased. The people came in, they were very professional, they did the work. I was on top of things, we had to interact because I'm very fussy. I like certain things and I don't like certain things as well. So I wanted their opinion and I wanted my opinion to come across. I went with them. We went to Home Depot. We picked out the appliances and new stove, new dishwasher. So all these things came into play to fill in, and it's just fabulous. And I was told that somebody took pictures and they said that for the kitchen that they were going to hang it up in their office back at their headquarters. So once again, I'm very pleased. And I hope the program will continue on for many years for a lot of other people that live in the city of Boston. I love Boston. Boston has improved over the years tremendously of the development of the city, South Boston, Roxbury, Dorchester. It's a beautiful neighborhoods that need to be pulled together continuously, and people need to take pride in their homes.
Thank you.
It just brings up the value of their property.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, if
Hi,
you
my
could-
name is Pamela Brothers Graham. I live on Bernard Street in Dorchester. It's nice to hear the testimonies of the people here as far as what they got done for their homes, but unfortunately, I'm the unfortunate one. On July 7th of, I believe, 2018, I made an application, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Leo Moss. He informed me what other information I needed as far as the application, and he checked off the program called Homeworks Help. Okay, unfortunately, I was not eligible for the other program because of income. But at the time, I was informed I had to get my own contractors, in which they said at least 3. And the contractors that I know, unfortunately, they would not be bothered with the program, especially when they saw this sheet as far as what the contractor needed. And one was, let me see, something for EPA, liability insurance, home improvement certificate, and construction supervisor license. And apparently, the contractors I was in from, they didn't have some of those licenses. So I had the opportunity, once again, to speak to Leo Moss. Off the record, he gave me 3 people to get in contact with. I tried to call, I think it was A&S Construction. The guy was out of town. Said to give him a call back, which I did. He told me to send my name, address, and phone number. I sent it to him. He was supposed to get in contact with me. I tried once again, and so forth. And then another one gave my name and address. No one showed up. The last person was Thomas Construction. He did come out. He saw what needed to be done. I don't know what the story was. He said in order to have the work done, it would probably cost me about $20,000, and that was it. And then when I spoke to the person handling my application at Court Street and asked her, could she make recommendations? She said that was still my responsibility, and that was what perturbed me so much about the program, because it seems like because of the program that I am in, I have to search out all these contractors, but if you're in the other program, everything is given to you, and I'm sorry, I cannot support this program.
Thank you
That's
for
it.
your testimony. Thank you. Could you please state your name?
Hi, my name is Marcia Neder. I live on Suncrest Road in Hyde Park. I wish my experience had been like the previous women who talked about how wonderful the program is. Personally, I wish I had never heard of it. I wish I had never signed my name. I wish I had never participated. It was the most harrowing 3 months of stress that I have never experienced before. Let's begin with the fact that the liaison between myself and the contractor, the person supposedly, I thought, representing me from the city's side of it, came through to look to see what needed to be done to the house. Now, I had my own list. First amongst them is the fact that my foundation, water comes in the basement when it rains. Water comes in the basement when we have a lot of snow and then we have a thaw. And he's walking through the house identifying this, that, and the other, and I kept asking him, what about the foundation? He didn't look at me, but he said, the city doesn't do that. I found out after that the city does do that. Now I'm still left with about an $8,000 job that needs to be done because it's only getting worse. The contractor started working September of 2018. The first thing that you realized was that it was complete chaos. There were too many chiefs or cooks in the kitchen. Nobody seemed to be in control. The third day into the job, I walked out my back door, down the stairs, and there was a big glob of spit on my back step. I knew immediately I was doomed. I was in trouble. I went and got my phone. I took a picture of that, and I continued to take pictures of the horrendous job that was done to my house. I can't begin to tell you the conversations and the arguments and the talking over me, even by the person who, again, was my liaison. At one point, he even said to me, I've been doing this job for X number of years. I said, well, if you were doing the job right, and if these were skilled workers, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I am bordering on glaucoma, 71 years old, and with my bad eyes, I could see all the paint that wasn't done. But yet they're telling me, they're asking me what's the problem. I took pictures of all of it as well. We're finally out of frustration because at this point, I am sleeping on my couch for 2 months, trying to get these people to do a proper job of painting the area where I sleep. Finally, I said to them, look, get out. Leave the paint and the paintbrush. I'll do it myself. And I proceeded to paint. But you know what else they did? I couldn't understand why there was paint on my new vanity, the base of it, whatnot. I only purchased it in 2015. You know what they said? Oh, that must have happened when we were rinsing the brushes. Excuse me, who rinses paint brushes in a vanity? I could talk for another half an hour and tell you about what happened, but let's suffice to say, and I'm going to move it forward to the end. Supposedly the job is done. I'm not pleased. I don't like how the bathroom looks. The mirror is supposed to be recessed, but it's sticking out from the wall. I can't tell you about the backsplash in the kitchen where if you ran your hand across it, you could get cut. They're done, they leave. I go downstairs, because mind you, this was my mom's apartment and I had moved her upstairs with me to get the work done. I go downstairs, the toilet doesn't flush. No hot water in the bathtub. You can't lift the lever to catch water to take a bath. I call them back. They come out with a plumber. The plumber was there for hours. They're working. Finally, I wrote a letter to Annette Elder. 4 pages documenting, and you should all have copies. I also made color copies of the pictures I took, but it's cost prohibitive. I could not make 15 color copies of all the pictures.
That's fine.
But I think the letter that I wrote went out to a Sheila Dillon, the Director of Neighborhood Development. It went to a Maureen Flynn, the Director of Boston Home Center, and a Miss Marcial, I believe she's a Deputy Director, called me. Maiden, I said to her, you have to come out and look at this work. You have to look at it. She came out, she took one look, and her comment was, I could have done a better job. That's how bad it was. They They corrected the backsplash. They gutted the bathroom once again and started all over. My question is, why was that necessary? Why is it that you're contracting with people who have no skill set? Why take someone through this, all of this stress? To have work that's not quality work. We're talking they bidded $39,000 plus of this work, of which I am responsible for over 26,000 of it, and there are areas in my house that look worse than they did before because they had no respect for my property. No, no. I'm not behind this program. I don't know what program they were in, but if it's the same program, there's no continuity in terms of the kind of service they got and what I received. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Charles Moore. I'm here on behalf of my mother, Catherine Moore, who resides on Balboa Avenue, Dorchester. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today because she said this whole process was too upsetting and she didn't want to start crying. Every time she speaks of it, that's pretty much what happens. To echo some of the other people who testified, I am in support of the program. I think the purpose of the program is a great purpose, and when done right, it actually helps a lot of people. Unfortunately, myself and my mother weren't subject to that. I do think the program needs a lot of overhaul, and it needs to be a lot more oversight, especially when it comes to the contractors. This program, or my situation is a little bit like some of the past ones. My mother signed up for the program. I, unfortunately, introduced her to the program, which I regret now, in a way to help her out and help her apartment. She started the program. I think this has been going about 2 to 3 years, and it's still unresolved as of today. So for the last 2 or 3 years, my mother, who's in her 70s, who suffers from cancer, heart conditions, and very ill stuff, has been stressed out emotionally, mentally for the last 2+ years because of this program. She did 2 parts. She did the senior heating program, and I think the senior home repair. The senior heating program started first. She went through all the paperwork. The process was pretty easy. The contractor, we were told that there were going to be 3 contractors that bid for the job. I guess there weren't. 1 contractor showed up on a random day without us notifying us or telling, say, hey, I'm here to work for behalf of the city. They started work on one day. It wasn't until 3 days later that we seen anyone or heard anything from the city, where I guess the liaison shows up and says, we need you to sign this paperwork. By that point, they had already ripped out most of the plumbing. They had ripped out the heating system. So my mother had pretty much no choice but to sign, or we wouldn't have heat. Then I sit there, I speak to her. My mother lives on the 1st floor, I live on the 2nd floor. I spoke to I think it was Harold's Plumbing. I spoke to the owner, as well as, I think it was Jared, who was the liaison. I explained to him, like I said, we did have some heating issues. I lived on the 2nd floor. I said, I have space heating, I'm fine. The primary is my mother. Jared agreed, and he put in as an emergency job, which allowed them to start right away. With that being said, they realized that my mother's apartment had some issues, maybe a broken pipe. So instead of fixing, and I did tell them, I said, listen, if there's any additional charges, I'll cover it myself. Just let me know when you find it or what the situation is. I guess that was too difficult, so what they did is they stopped working on my mother's apartment, and they went upstairs to mine's. They fixed mine's first, which, again, my mother was the one who was the recipient of this program. In the time that they were fixing mine's, her ceiling fell. A pipe burst in her apartment, causing the ceiling to fall, other damage to happen, which she had to pay out of pocket. I believe it was over $2,000. When I expressed this to the city said, well, there's no way you can prove that this was a problem, this was the cause, so forth. Moving forward, they agreed to a plan on how to fix this issue. For some reason, I came home one day, my mother was calling me crying, upset. I go in the house, and they put holes in the ceiling. Now, we had plumbing fine, everything worked existing except for the boilers. So we were under the impression they were going to use the existing plumbing in the house and just install the boilers. They cut a hole in the ceiling to go over. It didn't work out, so they just put a bunch of putty. Then they didn't want to fix the broken pipe, so they came up with this plan without our knowledge, without our input, to circumvent the broken pipe and install all new plumbing. What that did is it caused them to put dummy baseboards in every room, which they're just there for no reason, so they're just taking up space. It caused them to put additional, box in the laundry room, and there's literally the pipes are screwed to the ceiling, not inside the ceiling, screwed to the ceiling, and tucked behind a cabinet. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance. I will, if you want. I can provide you with 15 copies of pictures. I can provide you with the letters I sent. I just haven't had time. I barely made it here. But again, I have it all. I have the pictures. Fast forward, we brought this to Harold's attention. He said, oh, well, you know, there is a break in the pipe. You know, it was going to take too long, so forth. Speaking to two of his employees who basically said, listen, it wasn't because of that. It was your job upstairs was easier, and we get paid per how much work we do. So if we did your apartment first, then we're going to get a portion of the money that's due to us, and then we could do your mother's. So it was about money. So even though this was supposed to be an emergency job for my mother who needed it, it ended up being about money. As far as this program, I've had different quotes after that. They charged, I think it was $27,000, where I've had different plumbers come in, and the average was between $15,000 and $18,000 for the same job. That issue is when they fixed it, they left big holes on each side of the baseboard. Their resolution to it was putting 2x4s. Not plaster, not sheetrock, just 2x4s. My mother expressed her discontent with that. They said, oh, well, that will get taken care of. Jared said, oh, that will get taken care of in the home improvement portion. Harold said, we do plumbing, we don't do contracting. My father, who passed away, was a contractor. So if you're plumbing, you have a carpenter on your payroll. You don't open up a hall or wall and just leave it. Again, there's still issues with that. Those holes that they left, we've had a mice problem up until, I would say, you mentioned I spoke to Sheila Dillon, who's been great with this process. But again, this is 2.5, 3 years later. I sat down, I actually spoke to Andrea Campbell, Council Campbell, a couple years ago and brought her in because from every level of this process, we were getting told, whenever my mother made a concern or expressed a concern, it's like we were getting shamed, we were getting pushed back, or we weren't getting listened to. It wasn't until Andrea Campbell got involved that someone actually responded and paid attention to what we had to say. They came, everyone that works from Mark Katie to Sheila didn't come out, but everyone, almost every level came out to my house, or to my mother's house, looked at it, and everyone agreed that the work was unsatisfactory. We told them to this. That contractor continued to work with the city up until, I would say, this year. It frustrated me driving by in the city and seeing his truck parked outside other people's homes, knowing what he did, knowing the type of work that he did. I brought this to the cities, and again, we were at fault. One of the higher level, I guess, executives in this program had the nerve to sit in my mother's home and agree that the work was unsatisfactory. And in the next breath told my mother, don't call me, but, well, what do you want to do? We're not going to build you a new home. Now, to me, that was disrespectful, especially in her home, especially when you said, and again, I asked him, I said, well, if this was your house, would this be satisfactory? And again, he said no. Fast forward, we got, I said, the city council involved. We had a separate meeting. We had 2-3 meetings. We came up with a plan that said we were going to resolve this, or work towards it. That plan started taking shape. They told me to get contractors. I was going back and forth with, I think it was Katie, to have a meeting. There was some mix-up. I have a very busy schedule, just like she does. I was on vacation. I was away. She was away. I get an email on Monday saying, well, we want to kind of wrap this up before the end of the fiscal year, which is coming up Friday. I think on Friday, I get an email from her supervisor saying, well, what we tried to meet it, we couldn't make an arrangement, so what we're going to do is we're going to offer you a resolution. We're going to deduct $12,000 from the loan, and we're going to fix these minor things. And I just don't understand, how do you come up with a resolution without the person who's primarily involved, which is my mother? Like, how do you sit at the table and come up with something? And again, it's not being rude, but worrying about the fiscal year. It's been 3 fiscal years that passed. Now, all of a sudden, it's an issue. And the only reason I personally think it was an issue is because it was brought to the city council's attention, and they knew this hearing was coming up. Because again, 2 fiscal years before that, when we were complaining, when we were asking for help, it was not an issue. We got nothing. Again, like I said, right now, it's still unresolved. We have been working with Ms. Dillon, who has been great with helping with certain stuff. But again, just to reiterate, like, I think it's a great program, but my experience and my mother's experience, which I tried to stay out of it, but again, as a citizen of Boston, as a city employee, and more importantly, as a son, I have some concerns, very strong concerns. And it basically boils around the contractors. There needs to be oversight. The contractor came in, he was listed as a de-leading company. He charged my mother $5,000 to paint. He didn't sand, he didn't prime, he didn't do anything. He literally just painted, like she said, over the existing walls. Within 2 or 3 days, the paint started to peel. And when I asked them, and when I asked the city, and they sat at a meeting with myself, the city council, and asked why that wasn't happening, they told us because, oh, well, they wasn't sure if it was lead. so they couldn't disturb the walls. Well, if he's a de-leading company, you mean to tell me he can't figure out if there's lead in the walls? Isn't that what he does? You know, and again, it's been de-leaded for years. I'm sure the city has some type of database that they could have checked, but they didn't. You know, so again, $5,000. I got my upstairs apartment painted on my own. It was $2,500 to paint. They were charging $5,000, $4,000 or $5,000. They did a floor. The floor, I think they charged $4,000. They didn't want to put a water. There's concrete. They didn't want to put a water barrier down. They didn't want to put plywood down. They literally just put a floating floor on top of the thing. When my mother mentioned it to him, she said, "Oh, well, again, we've been doing this. We know what we're doing." You know, finally, I believe the city did fire or stop working with that contractor. But this is a loan that my mother's responsible for. If something happens that I'm responsible for. And the problem I have is, again, I don't mind paying the money. I don't mind, again, it's a loan. But why is it that this contractor walks away with $20,000, $30,000 plus when he breached the contract? He didn't do anything that was supposed to be done on there. He did the roof, that failed inspection. He did electrical, that failed inspection. When we asked him, well, was it resolved? Well, what happened? What needed? All we were told is that it was resolved. You know, so again, I wish I could have echoed some of the other comments and had an experience on my mother's behalf. But again, and like the last thing I would say, like we just had an issue with the mice. My mother had a snake that came in through the house through one of the holes that the contractor left and didn't fix. In the last month, I would say she's had 6 to 7 mice that she had caught. And again, when we called the city, it was okay. Well, we'll come out. We'll try to figure something out. But I just think 3 years, 2 to 3 years, is too long for someone. When this program is to help people, this program is to bring people's house up to date. And like she said, the house looks, in some cases, it does look better, but in a lot of cases, it's worse. Everything that was done for a contractor to do, the city wanted us to kind of find a contractor to refix it. And every contractor, including their own, that they brought in said, listen, we're not touching this work. It's too bad for us to do it. It's going to be us doing it from scratch. And so that kind of leaves us in a situation. So I'm curious to see how it's going to work out. But
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. So I'm going to have the city now come and take some seats, and then I'll have you guys go back in the audience. There's one person who signed up in between who wanted to speak. While the city's coming down, do you want to say something?
Say something else. We're done.
Well, no, you can come back probably after other folks have testified, but we're going to
Okay.
try and get the city up
That's
here
fine. That's fine.
to speak.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, can you hear me? Is this mic active? Okay. My name is Joyce Harvey. I'm a resident of Dorchester. Hi, Andrea. I applied in May for the senior programs. I've applied for senior home repair and senior save, and it took till, I think, August before one of the representatives from the city actually came out to look at my house and see what was necessary. I'm waiting for somebody to come out to my house now, I think it's next week, for the home repair portion. So I've seen somebody about the senior save, and they're gonna replace my furnace and remove the asbestos and wrap, put fiberglass wrapping around for insulation. The contractor that won the bid hasn't come out yet. In fact, I called, he finally got back to me this morning, this morning, and he's gonna come out hopefully Saturday because his son was the one that did the assessment and did the bid, so he wants to come out and see what really has to be done. For the most part, I guess my opinion is still up in the air because nothing's really been done. The people I've been dealing with from the city have been basically pretty good, and I think it's a valuable program. It's, assuming it works out well for me, unlike 2 of my friends, if it works out well for me, that'll be great. I picked the program I picked because I didn't want to have to select my own contractors. I felt that if I was given, if I let the city select contractors, or at least put it out to bid for contractors to respond, those people would be more invested in doing a good job because they regularly deal with the city. And like some of the people that spoke before me, I don't know enough contractors. I'm not sure if I know enough about the contractors to know whether they're good or not good. I did Google both of these people. There was like 3 contractors that came out to bid. I Googled all 3 of them. So I'm not dissatisfied with the one that I got for the project. However, my biggest complaint is the length of time it's taking for this whole thing.
Get started.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So,
Hello.
hello.
Hi. Thank you for holding this hearing. You know, some of these stories are certainly hard to hear. I would like to spend just a couple of minutes outlining the program, the volume of people that are served every year, and then I'm going to certainly hand it over to my colleagues to talk about how we select contractors and what we're doing to improve the program. So just ever so briefly, the Boston Home Center runs 6 home improvement programs, and 4 of those are for our seniors. And we certainly take working with the seniors very, very seriously. We certainly want no one harmed by the work that we are doing. So the overall goal of the senior program is to provide financial assistance in the way of grants or patient loans, and also to help them navigate, which can be a very, very difficult process, selecting a contractor and making sure the work is done satisfactorily. There are 4 senior programs. One of them is Senior Saves, which you heard mentioned, where we take out old heating systems and replace them with very energy efficient systems. Last year, or this year to date, we've completed almost 30 of those. We have a senior minor repair program where we do minor repairs up to $1,500. It's a grant program for things like broken toilets, water heaters that need to be serviced, broken cabinets, the doors that won't shut, those kind of things that we all experience, but for seniors can be very daunting. And to date, we've completed about 1,250 of those smaller home repairs. And then our senior moderate repair program, which you've heard both good and bad today, provides more sizable repairs, kitchens, baths, roofs, siding, larger items, and that is a combination of grant and loan. And to date, we've completed about 35 of those programs. So, I should mention too that we have a 311 emergency response, so if a senior loses their heat in a winter, gutters get clogged, anything like that, there's a plumbing emergency, seniors just need to call 311, and then we dispatch a contractor out 24/7 to make sure that the emergency is taken care of. So all total, this year, we've served over 1,300 homeowners that, and I should say, because staff are here, and I do feel bad for them, it's very, very hard to hear some of these stories. The vast majority of them go really well. People are satisfied, we work through thorny issues, but there is probably 1 or 2% of those cases, I was asking staff last week, how many that become problematic. And that's really, they're even though they're a very small percentage, they are hard to hear. And we take those complaints very seriously. In fact, I'm going to ask Maureen to talk a little bit about what we do when we get a complaint. But I do want people watching and hearing this hearing to know that we do really care about our seniors in the city. This program is there to protect them and make sure that they really get the services that they need. Occasionally things go wrong, very occasionally, and we are very committed as city employees to make sure that those situations get fixed. And my name is on these programs, and I know that if anyone ever calls me about a program, I will do everything I can to make sure that situations get fixed. We've all had contractors that we have not been satisfied with. I'm not making excuses, but our job as city employees is to make sure that when something does go wrong, that the situation get fixed as quickly and as painlessly as possible, especially for our seniors. So, in my opinion, it's a very good program. It helps thousands of low and moderate income seniors, but we always are ready to improve the program, and if there's things we learned from this hearing today, you can count on us to incorporate any improvement. and procedure to make sure that, situations get fixed in a timely way. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Maureen to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of conflict resolution, but also to talk about how we pick our contractors and how we monitor our contractors. But I'll stay here and answer as many questions as I can afterwards as well.
Thank you. And just as part of the orientation to the program, we were just discussing age requirements, income requirements. If you could break that down.
Sure.
So that we just under.
Do you want to do that, Maureen? Yep. Okay.
And how much is the I guess, the amount of money that are given for the moderate repair?
Okay.
So if you could tell us.
Sure.
I appreciate the grant versus loan.
Yep.
But how much, who can get it?
Okay.
That would be really helpful for us.
Okay. So thank you, Madam Chairwoman and Council President Andrea Campbell, and councilors, thanks for coming today. So one of the things that you asked about, and one of the things that drives the senior programs particularly, is how they're funded. So most of our senior programs are funded through CDBG dollars, Community Development Block Grant dollars, and some of those rules, the CDBG rules, really drive the program in some ways. So our non-senior programs, our HELP/Homeworks program and our 3D program, those are funded through Housing 2030 funds, and folks can be up to 120% area median income to get those funds without having to provide a match. So they can get $20,000 for their home through the Homework Helps program, and then $30,000 through the 3D program. $10,000 of that is supposed to be spent on the exterior. So in that program, homeowners are allowed to bring their own contractors if they want. We require 3 bids, which, as one of the homeowners said, is often a challenge to get 3 bids, but we do that to make sure that the homeowner isn't being taken advantage of by just getting 1 bid. The situation is slightly different for the senior programs. So like I said, most of the senior programs, so the moderate rehab program, which was most of the comments were that folks talked about today are under the moderate rehab program. That's funded by CDBG. Our minor repair, some of our minor repair fund program, the up to $1,500 per problem. So if your toilet's not working, your sink isn't working, one of our senior agencies will come out and fix it right away. Some of that money is CDBG money, some of it's 2030 money. So on our Seniors Save money, a program which you probably all know about, it's replacing furnaces and heating systems when they're at risk for not performing. For that program, we also use Housing 2030 money. So we don't have to abide by the same CDBG rules. On the Senior Saves program, the age requirement is slightly lower, so it's 60 years old instead of 62 for all of our other programs. Okay. So in terms of how CDBG works, there's a really two important components that drive the program. First, and we love receiving CDBG money. We couldn't do these programs without it. It's really important to us, but there are a few issues with the funding that make it a little bit hard for seniors. So first of all, we can only fund projects 80% or lower AMI limit, so area median income limit. So when one of the homeowners talked about not being eligible for the senior program, that's why it's a lower income, because those are CDBG rules. You can only fund folks that are 80% or below. So that's number one. Number two, because of HUD rules, we have to. There's no leeway. We have to take the lowest bid for each project. So we have a list of approved contractors, about 40 approved contractors right now. We've grown the program from about 18 contractors 5 years ago to about 40 today. Those contractors must come to us with references, licenses, insurance, and all along the way, we're checking their work to make sure they're performing correctly. But we have about 40 of those contractors. They can bid on each one of our senior projects, right? So we have to take the lowest bid, which I think is frustrating to some seniors, right? They don't get to bring their own contractor to the job. That's one piece. The second piece is if we're using CDBG or HUD funds in any home that was built in 1977 or before that, which a lot of seniors still live in homes that were built before 1977, we have to do de-leading work. So if there is paint peeling because we're disturbing it because of the project, like say we have to gut a bathroom or a kitchen, and it may have, doesn't necessarily have to have, but it may have lead paint because it's in a home that was built before 77, we have to fix the paint, fix the problem with the paint. If there's any peeling paint in any other area of the home, we're responsible for doing that as well. And that can make the project a much larger project than what a senior originally wanted to have done. So they may need a kitchen done, the kitchen's not functioning properly, or their roof done, or a stairway, and now we have to de-lead as part of the project as well. So that can get a little bit complicated for seniors, and we appreciate that. In terms of some of the cases that were brought up, we were not happy with the work that the contractors did either. We were very unhappy with the work that the contractors did. And in any case where a contractor does not do the work properly, we will make sure that they either go out and do the work again and solve the problem, or have a substitute contractor come in and do the work that they were supposed to do or for whatever reason couldn't do. So we will work with the homeowner until they are satisfied and the work is performed up to our standards. If a contractor has a pattern of not performing well, we will either put them on hold or we will suspend them from the program, whatever is appropriate in the situation. But in the cases that you heard, we weren't happy either, and we made sure in the first case that the contractor went back out and did all of the work that they were supposed to do. And in Mr. and Mrs. Moore's case, we are working with them and continue to work with them to resolve the problem. But we're not happy with some of the work that the contractor did either in that case. Yeah, so Sheila just reminded me to talk about the split. So there's a split also in the, I know this is complicated, but there's a split also between grants and loans. So all of the de-leading work that we have to do is a grant. So the senior is not responsible for that work. On the senior home repair main program, it is a forgivable loan. So if the person, I'm sorry, what I meant to say is a deferred loan. So if someone gets the loan, it sits on their property quietly, 0% interest, they don't have to make payments, and it only becomes payable when someone refinances or sells. So it just sits there quietly. And so that, what they're coming to us for is that portion is a loan. The de-leading, that's a grant. They never have to pay it back.
Thank you. Great. So, hi, Madam Chairwoman, Council President Campbell, and other councilors. Thank you so much for bringing this important issue before City Council today. So as you all know, but I love talking about, older adults are one of Boston's fastest growing age groups. We had 88,000 people over 60 in 2010. We have over 105,000 people over 60 now, and we'll have close to 130,000 people over 60 by 2030. We also live in the second worst state in the country for elder economic security, meaning that many of our older residents here in Boston and across Massachusetts have a very large gap in between their income and the amount of, and the cost of living in their community. So because of this, Boston is really, really lucky to have the home center and programs like senior home repair. Many communities do not invest in programs like this. I know a lot of our other colleagues across the state and across the country have asked me about our programs for senior home repair. And so even though there are some challenges with the program, and there are more people who would like to access a program like this than we're able to serve. We're very lucky to have it. Among other things, it helps our residents with much needed repairs, enabling them to stay safely in their homes. And for our low to moderate income residents, accessing assistance through programs like this might be the only way they can afford to make those necessary repairs to their home. We use this program, the home repair programs, along with the senior discount for Boston Water and Sewer, and the property tax relief and property tax work-off programs. They're all integral pieces and used together. They keep older adults where they want to be in their homes and in their neighborhoods of Boston. So we work really closely in my office in collaboration with D&D's Home Center. Older adults often call us or find us at a community event or community program and talk to us about what their issues are with their home. And so we are able to make that connection to that for them to the home repair program. Often we're working with residents on one set of issues and the home repair program is working on another set of issues. So we're able to work collaboratively together. And we were really excited last year that there was a technology investment made through D&D that allowed us to have access to the same data system that the home center uses. So we can now make referrals through their Salesforce system. We can help people who call us confused about the program kind of understand where they are in the process by looking at the case notes. And we're able to enter in any information and have a closer connection to the D&D staff for anything that might be helpful with the case. Also in the home repair realm, we do use some of our Older Americans Act dollars to fund a nonprofit organization called ESAC, which is one of D&D's home repair partners as well, to do senior home repair. So they respond to our request. We put out a request for proposals every couple of years for our Title III funding, and they have applied for Title IIIB funds, which is our most flexible funding stream. So currently, our current contract with them funds them to work with about 380 older adults over the course of a year. So from October, it starts October 1st, 2019 through September of 2020. And with those funds they're providing, it allows them to provide additional home repair services, including minor repairs, some larger repairs, and the emergency services that were referenced before. So in closing, I want to thank you for giving us a chance to highlight such an important program. Older adults are integral to our communities, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that we support people to be able to stay in the city of Boston. With the home center, many older adults, without the home center, many older adults would be living in substandard housing. They'd be hiring contractors that haven't been vetted and taking loans they can't afford. So it's an important part of the toolbox that we work with, and we look forward to continuing to work with our older residents and with D&D to make sure it's a program that everyone can rely on. Thank you.
So I'm going to actually refer, or we'll start asking questions as City Council to the administration, and each one of us will go and take some time, and then you can respond, and then we'll go back to public testimony. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Councilor Campbell. She called for this hearing initially, and I want to make sure that she could start off with her questioning.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards, and thank you for the partnership, given your previous work, of course, and with respect to housing on behalf of the City of Boston. I first want to start with thanking the seniors for coming and participating. This was a tough time to have the hearing. Most wanted it in the morning. We had to accommodate a lot of schedules, so I want to thank the folks who physically were able to come down here and testify, whether good or bad, it doesn't matter. Just appreciate your presence and attendance, so thank you. I also want to thank my team members, especially my senior advisor, Cheryl Harding, who did a lot of outreach with respect to this hearing, but also was the one taking many of the calls about the positives related to the program and some of the negatives, as well as Dustin in my office as well. I also want to thank all of you, of course, for the work that you do every day, including your team members who are either sitting here or at work. I often say that city employees are overworked and underpaid. It is a tough job managing a large caseload in many respects. But I think we can all agree that this program is vital. It is important. It keeps seniors in their homes, particularly at a time when we are facing a housing crisis. We want seniors to be able to stay in this city, to be able to afford to live in this city, and ownership is key. It's also important to have assets. We all know that. And more importantly, many of these seniors are doing creative things, frankly, through their home, housing some other folks who can't afford to live in the city of Boston. So a lot of creative things are happening when our seniors are allowed to stay in place. And then, of course, there are some seniors who don't want to go to a nursing home or somewhere else. They would like to just stay in their home. So this program supports that as well. I think I'm probably the counselor who, or maybe there's a couple other counselors, but the counselor who's gotten a lot of the calls with respect to the cases that did not go well. I really appreciated this diagram that maps out where the programs and calls are coming from. Most, or many, are in my district. Most are in my district, frankly, which is exciting that my folks are participating in the program and they're calling and seeing what the city can give them, which is wonderful. But then the flip side, of course, it highlights the inequities that we see in the city of Boston every day. The fact that the concentration is in largely Dorchester and Mattapan with respect to the need, and that many of the folks who are looking for these programs are families of color or seniors of color, and those who are our poorest. So the bigger issue of inequities in the city of Boston, of course, will continue to address, but that also raises red flags by looking at this map. I just want to go into a few questions and then give my colleagues a chance, and I can come to round two. The first is related to, I'll start with the accountability piece, because that, the many folks, even those who have complained who could not participate in the hearing today, talked about the program is great. If it works well, this would have been wonderful. But when it didn't, how do we hold folks accountable? How do we hold ourselves accountable? We do a lot of fixes, but how do we hold, most importantly, the contractors accountable? And so I would love to hear a little bit more about, I guess, sort of threefold. One is, during the actual time the work is happening, do we send people out just to randomly check on these contractors? Just to sort of show up, almost like I'm having my kitchen redone. I show up and I'm just sort of looking around and seeing what's going on. And sometimes it's positive and sometimes it is not, and this is actually happening as we speak. The second question related to that is, if something has not gone well, we can send a substitute contractor out or use the same one. I think the biggest complaint we got is that people did not want to see the same contractor because they were telling you they probably saw other things before they called us to actually say that this person is not good. So what's the percentage of folks, of the substitute contractors, that would even take this job? Because many are saying, I don't want to have anything to do with that shoddy work that was done by the previous person. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. And then the third piece is, and this will be my last sort of question for this round, is that pattern piece. For me, once is enough. This is city-owned, taxpayer dollars, hard-fought dollars that should go to contractors whose standard of performance is excellent, right? We talk to each other about contractors and wanting to do things in our home, and you always sort of do that due diligence. Many of our seniors can't go on and Google. They can't go on and find the best person. It's often word of mouth, but in this case, the word of mouth is us. And if a contractor, I think, does not show up well the first time, and usually these contractors are tasked with doing not one task, but many, unless they're just doing the minor repair program, but we're talking about the major repair program. I think if they're showing up in a home and doing a few things wrong, they shouldn't be allowed to come back unless they have some really legitimate reason as to why they screwed that work up. And in many cases, the contractor seems to be allowed to come back, or people are seeing that person show up on other jobs. So I'd love to figure out or hear from you guys, what's the pattern that we look for before we say, one of you guys find another place to go?
Sure.
Thank you, guys.
So I think your first question was on, do people go out and check work? Yes. So once a contractor submits a payment request, we have our construction specialists go out and make sure that the work is done to our standards, and the contractor will not get paid until they've met our standards. So that happens when they submit requests for partial payments, and then on the final payment, one thing that we've done over the past 6 months, as we're constantly trying to improve the program all the time, and we, like Sheila said, will take any suggestions. So one thing that we've done over the last 6 months, I think, is a construction manager, a senior manager needs to go out and check the entire job on final payment. So we're making sure that the entire job makes sense, that everything's been done according to our standards before the final payment is signed off on. So, so yes, so a construction manager does go out each time a payment is requested. The construction managers also will go out anytime a senior or another non-senior homeowner wants them to come out and look at something. So our construction managers are generally out in the field every single day from about 10 until 2, and then they're doing paperwork in the office before and after. But there's no moment when they're not at someone's house basically during the their core work hours. So if there's a problem, they will go out. If they and when a job is complicated, they will go out. If not every week, every day or every other day to make sure that it's going well.
I would just offer before I think you move on to
Sure.
the next one is, I think even before payment or before where they might anticipate someone coming out to check their work,
Yep.
or even a call, that they just randomly show up. And maybe that requires us to budget for more construction managers, more human capital for those random inspections. That's a conversation we can continue.
That's a great idea, and I'm sure the staff love to hear that you'll give us more money for more construction because we need them. So thank you. To that point as well, well, I'll go on to the second one, and then I want to loop back to how we're dealing with contractors in general. If you said, your question was, if something hasn't been performed or something isn't working out according to the scope of what was originally supposed to happen, how do we deal with that, and especially when there's a pattern? So on the first, if a contractor hasn't performed, we will take action, either put them on hold, and we'll put them on hold too if they're too busy. If they've been awarded a few jobs and they're working simultaneously on something and we think that they've reached capacity, we'll put them on hold and not allow them to bid, because we know that can be an issue as well. The contractors that we have, the 40 approved contractors that we have, do very good work. Sometimes they will have a bad job. They often say because of the subs that they've hired. So sometimes the subs that they've hired aren't performing to even their standards, and in that case we tell them that they have to pull their subs and put in new subs for the job, or they can't continue. So when we see, if you're right, if someone came onto our program and their first time they were a mess or a bomb, we wouldn't continue with them. But a lot of the contractors have been with us a while. We take in new contractors all the time. We're constantly trying to build our contractor base for community economic development as well. That's actually part of our program. So we don't want to necessarily suspend someone from the program if they've been doing a good job for us, and on one job they've done a not good job and it's inadequate, and we absolutely agree with the homeowner that it's inadequate. So in that case, we may suspend them until they've proven to us that they've gotten new subs, that they're back on track, that they're able to perform the way that we want them to perform. In general, over the last 6 months, we've also had meetings with our contractors, and one big meeting where we've said to them that we're playing by kind of new rules, that we're having new accountability with them. So we've told them that the homeowner from the very beginning, especially with our senior projects, needs to understand exactly the scope of the job, because oftentimes the problems can snowball from that initial meeting of not understanding what is being performed and missed expectations and uneven expectations. So they need to be at what we call our closing. So when the homeowner signs the documents, the loan documents that they're agreeing to, that the work is performed, we're now having the contractor at that meeting to make sure that the senior or the non-senior understands the work that's being performed, together with our program manager and our construction specialists. So that's one change that we've made. If we see a pattern, we're going to put them on hold faster than maybe we've done in the past, and we will suspend them from the program if they've done a job that's completely without, there's just no excuse or justification for what's happened, even if it's the sub's fault. If they've not monitored their subs well, that's not a reason for them to continue in our program. So we did have a meeting with them, and we wanted to know from them what was wrong from their point of view with the program. So we want feedback, and we sort of laid down the law a little bit and said, look, we need more accountability from you. We need you to understand with the homeowner from the very beginning what's going on here, and you need to be in touch with us from every step of the way. If there's a problem, we want to know about it right away, not next week, not tomorrow, that day. What's the problem? We want to hear about it from you rather than the senior having to call us and identify what's gone wrong.
The other piece was just the substitute contractor versus the...
Yep. So you're right, that is hard to have a substitute contractor come in after they often don't want to take that job, right? Because then they would be responsible. But in serious cases where we don't think that the contractor is going to be able to fix the problem, we will try to call someone in and to fix the problem that the original contractor hasn't performed well. But you're right, that is, a contractor doesn't want to go in after a bad job. That's right.
Thank you. Councillor McCarthy?
Just quickly, thank you very much for being here. I've sent a lot of people your way, and we've had a lot of positive results. I think to Councilor Canberra's point, you know, the follow-up is always the most important, and some people are disappointed. And there's always the expectations that you have to qualify as well. My house is going to be 130 years old on Halloween, by the way, and I've learned a lot over the last 23 years of owning that house. And when I say that a job is done, my wife sometimes looks at me and says that it's really not done. So there's an expectation that I've been wearing on my chest for a long, long time. So I certainly understand. I think, you know, the one problem, and I think you'll agree, is that we have such a tremendous amount of building going on right now that contractors are tough to lock down. Part of the frustration that I've had with some of the small things that I've done within my house is, you know, I've lined up the electrician, or the electrician's done, but the plasterer can't come in for another 2 weeks, and now you got empty walls, and then you get the plaster in. If the plaster's not right, you can't really paint it, and so there's a lot of moving parts. So I certainly understand. I think, you know, overall, the record for you guys is tremendous. I've had really great experiences in District 5 with you over the last 6 years, and before, actually. So I congratulate you on that. I think that the one thing that there's really no question is more of a statement. I think the one issue that Councilor Campbell brought up regarding maybe some more staffing for follow-up to stay on top of each other. I won't be here next year to vote on that budget, but maybe I'll show up and give my 2 cents anyway. But you know, I've always been happy, so I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could just say one thing in response. One thing we are starting to do now with Salesforce is track the amount of time it's taken for a contractor after they've been signed up for the job. How long does it take them to start? Because I did hear tonight or today frustration from some of the seniors about how long it takes, and it is a very busy climate out there. But nonetheless, you know, there's an expectation that seniors or the contractors start within so many days of the job, you know, and finish within so many. So we are using, you know, pretty sophisticated software right now to track all of that data, so we know who is not performing, and then we can say, hey, you know, we love you, you're a good contractor, but you've taken on too much. And Maureen said, we'll suspend them bidding on new things, but also bring to their attention that certain households have been waiting too long. So it is monitored, and it is, you're right, Councillor, with so much work going on right now in the city, it is hard to make people perform within certain time periods.
And just if I can add to, I forgot one thing, and staff will kill me if I don't say it, but we do hand out reviews to homeowners and have them fill out a review of the contractor and of the program, and we collect those at the end of the project. So we're trying to do a better job of tracking, like you said, any problems or patterns that we see with either delayed work or any issues. We're going to track them and make sure that we follow up with the homeowner if there's an issue, or follow up with the contractor if we see a repeat pattern over and over again.
Councilor Baker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming out. So what program has approved contractors that D&D directs towards the seniors? Is that the moderate repair and the minor repair?
Yes, so we have 40 approved contractors for all of our programs. So a non-senior could take advantage of that, call someone on that list. But yes, anyone in the senior programs for the mod rehab program is that we are required to, they can bid on the project.
You have your 40 approved. So
yeah.
So we have some people that were talking about they needed to find their own contractor. Is that,
right.
That's a separate program?
That's, if you're not a senior, then you can bring your own contractor if you want, but we require 3 bids. So for HELP and HomeWorks, the non-senior programs, we require someone to get 3 bids. We're taking a look at that because we know, I mean, even anyone that owns a home, how difficult it is to get 3 bids, but we're trying to balance that against not having homeowners taken advantage of. So we're thinking about what's the alternative on that.
So you have the approved list. How are they vetted just by the work they've done? So do this one job, we look at it, worked out great, and then is that how we vet the contractors?
So we require references on their application when they come to us, and we also require insurance for them to have Massachusetts construction supervisor licenses. So they need to be licensed, they need to have insurance, and then they have to come with references that we check.
But then if they're using subcontractors, that kind of all goes out the window there. If the subcontractors aren't vetted and approved.
Yeah,
right, so how do we deal with that? Is there a particular way that you?
That's a good point, and I would say if we need to do possibly, and I'm not sure whether we have the subcontractors on the application or not.
Yeah.
Yep.
And well, Richie's coming up. So what is your typical, how much do people, like the gentleman, Kingford, he talked about a roof and a kitchen. So
yes.
How much are people, what's available to a homeowner about approximately? What is your, typical, is it 20 or 30,000?
Sure.
And can you go up as high as 100? What is the range?
So for a non-senior, the maximum limit is 20,000 unless you live in a triple decker, and then it's 30,000.
Okay.
For a senior, depending on the number of units you have in your home, you can basically get up to 65,000, but that's a combination of loans and grants, the grants being the de-letting work.
And you can do that in conjunction with a conventional loan if you're doing a larger project than 65,000?
No. So if you're either in the senior program or you're in the non-senior program. So some seniors opt not to go through the senior program because they don't want to deal with the de-letting, and they have smaller projects, and maybe they want to bring their own contractor. So we allow them to go into HomeWorks Help, and the HomeWorks Help has a higher income limit, so it goes up to 120% AMI. So sometimes that's a more appropriate program. But if a senior needs a lot of work, they're probably going to go into the senior program because it allows for higher funding.
Yeah, even a lot of work on some of the homes. I mean, 65,000 a lot of times isn't going to get you to where you need to be.
That's right, and that we have to deal with life and safety issues first. And sometimes that is of great disappointment to homeowners that we can't do more because we know there's a lot of deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
And that is, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
To speak quickly, Councilor, to the requirement for the subs, the it's a pass-through contractual requirement of the contractor who has been awarded the job. It's actually not a common practice, right? So we only see subs when the main contractors whom we regularly do business with become busy. And say they're running 3 jobs simultaneously and they need a plasterer or they need a plumber, they will bring in a sub, but they have signed responsibility in that contract for any sub they bring on the job.
So the contractor takes
He bears the responsibility for
that
their work. That's
subcontractor.
correct. And the contractors who do work through our program have to have the Massachusetts Construction Supervisor's License, a Home Improvement Contractor's License, also workers' comp, and general liability insurance. So they're well insured, they're well licensed, and one of the hardest jobs we have is to maintain a file of those licenses. There's 5 separate dates that we have to monitor, and we have a staff member who has to monitor that for all 40 contractors because they all expire at different times. But we never want to have a contractor working through us who doesn't have a current license or current insurance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Flynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Council President for calling this hearing. Thank you to the panelists for being here, and thank you to the seniors that came out here and participated in this hearing as well. I also want to say thank you to the dedicated employees, city employees that work on this program and many other programs for the city of Boston and for our residents. We really appreciate the dedicated service of our city employees. I have a question on the program. I know it's a good program. It's working well. Certainly, there can be some tweaks to it to make it even better. I think we all agree with that, but I'm satisfied that it's a very good program. But what is the outreach you do to hard-to-reach residents that may not know about the program? And I'm talking about some residents, maybe they're having some difficulty with English. Do you have any outreach services to in different languages for our seniors?
So we do outreach probably on an almost nightly basis through our staff. They go to whatever meeting is available. We will send somebody out to the neighborhood to whatever meeting it's going on, and we will distribute information to seniors that way. We have our staff going to senior community centers, and then I'll let Commissioner Shea talk a little bit more about a concentrated effort we had in Mattapan, and that we're continuing and thinking of spreading out citywide, but I'll let her address that. In terms of hard outreach to hard, for seniors that might be not coming to those community events, I think Commissioner Shea might talk about the door-to-door efforts that we've done, but that's a good point that we should offer outreach materials in different languages. We're starting to do that more as an agency overall, and we're adapting all of our written materials into other languages. And we have multilingual staff available. If someone doesn't speak English and wants to communicate with us, we have staff available that speaks other languages. But Commissioner Shea.
Sure. So we were able to partner with D&D and with other city departments last year to do. We identified a stretch of Mattapan and a little bit of Hyde Park that had very low uptake on use of city services, and we were able to identify an area to knock. It had a high population of people speaking Haitian Creole and also Spanish, so we developed materials in all 3 languages and went door to door. But I would say that also that we regularly promote through all of our ways that we promote services, all of the home repair programs for seniors, so that's in our magazine. We also talk about it when we're out in the community at different events, and we let our grantees know who are serving a whole network of older adults in the community, a very diverse network of older adults in the community. This is a really important program, and we want to get the word out about it.
Thank you. I just, I'm working on the Census 2020, and I know it's very difficult for a census worker to go into, say, Chinatown and start communicating with the residents, especially if you don't know the language, but just to knock on doors or social media. A lot of our seniors don't use it in that community. I just would like a better way for us to effectively communicate with the residents there. How they communicate is not necessarily the way we communicate. And, you know, maybe we can continue to have a conversation about ways to communicate our message to make sure that the most in need are hearing our message. So I'd like to work with the D&D staff on that issue.
We'd appreciate that, and I understand that we used to have a TV program, so we are thinking of going back to that and doing sort of a half-hour, you know, segments on, you know, all of our programs, so that seniors who are at home or maybe homebound can just turn on the TV and find out some more information about our programs. So,
The South End community has the income restricted housing in the city, the most income restricted. What type of outreach are we doing in other neighborhoods? Maybe some of the residents might speak Spanish. Are we reaching them also?
our outreach is citywide, so we have staff people that are designated within within D&D staff and within Boston Home Center staff. We go citywide to any meeting anyone invites us to. We're there. Doesn't matter what time of day, night, weekend, we're there promoting our programs and doing outreach. But we will take any invitation, so if you know about meetings that we should be at or functions, we will absolutely be there.
In addition, Councilor, we have a contractual relationship with 4 nonprofits across the city who help spread the word about the programs as part of their normal intake for applicants. And Kit Clark in Dorchester covers South Boston also, and up into Chinatown. ESAC, Tenants Development Corp., and NOAA in East Boston.
Well, my final point or question is, I think it's a very good program, and again, I want to say thank you to the dedicated city employees that are working on it. Maybe it's the job also of the city council during budget season, when D&D comes down here, to tell us if there's enough money in the budget for this program. And it's the responsibility of the city council to push back on D&D or the mayor's office if there's not enough money in the budget. So I would really like to have a strong, robust conversation with D&D during the budget season so that as many seniors as possible can participate in the program. I don't want D&D to come down here and say, well, it's a great program, we have plenty of money, and we don't need any more money. You know, if the program is doing well, which it seems like it's doing, it needs more money. So that's where I'm coming from. That's what I'd like to hear as we go forward as well. Any comments on that, Sheila?
So, no, I welcome that conversation, and I think we'll certainly next time we come before you in the budget cycle, we will come prepared to talk about the usage of the home programs and what we need to expand them. They are, you know, construction costs too are going up. So even with roughly the same amount of money, we're serving, you know, fewer and fewer households. So I will welcome that, and we will certainly maybe meet beforehand too to go over the budget and what the needs are. Thank you.
Again, thank you to the dedicated city employees that work in this program. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And just a point of clarification, I don't think D&D has ever come forward to say that they don't need any funding, and we expect this budget cycle to continue to support you the best way we can. Also, as to the TV program, I would absolutely love to watch it, and I'm recommending Councillor Flynn as the host, so they can get out there and do our TV programming. I think he'd be great at it.
Okay. Thank you.
So before we go back and around with other questions, I wanted to invite anybody from the audience who did not testify before, who would like to say something now, to come forward. Just want to acknowledge the folks from NOAA who are here. Thank you so much for coming in here. I know that at least in East Boston, that's one of our top referral programs is through NOAA, so thank you for your leadership and working there. And you had mentioned them, and I wanted to acknowledge the folks here. Does anyone else have any? Just come on down forward if you want to testify. Feel free to come forward. Again, these are folks who haven't quite yet testified. Here are two new people who would like to add something.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Arnice Brown. I represent Tenants Development Corporation. And United Southern Settlements had this program for a long, long time. Tenants Development took it over. Maria DePina, who I always like to give a shout out because she's the only female in this field, and she runs one of the strongest programs. But this program is literally a lifeline for seniors. When Maria goes out to different seniors' homes, she'll get a simple call. I have a leaky roof, and she goes out there, and it's more than a leaky roof. Or, you know, the one story I always remember, and this is years ago, where a senior called because they're very humble and said they had a plumbing issue. And when she came back, she said they had no indoor plumbing. And so I think it's really important in a city that is, as someone mentioned earlier, getting increasingly more and more expensive, that as seniors are choosing to age in place, that they have the comfort and safety of their home to do so, and that they can stay in the communities and neighborhoods that they are from. And with Maria, these seniors are like family to her. And so she is extremely busy. She will get up and take calls during the weekend, middle of the night, because that's how important these seniors are. And I know how important this program is to the seniors who live in the city of Boston. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Doreen Thompson from Dorchester. I had some work done for me in 14, 15, and I am so grateful to I went down to Kit Clark to see Mr. And he told me about this meeting today, and I didn't know that you guys have meetings like these. And it's really such a blessing for me, because the work that was done for me, that was $30,000 towards my house, and I don't remember things very well, but I'm that gal that I love to laugh and giggle and so forth. And when I said I don't remember names and so forth, but the contractor came in after I was approved and so forth, and he came in. He upgraded my electricity, he claimed. He did my porches. Well, he did. But what did he do? I'm not sure. Because now this was done in 15, and now we're in 19. And I would love for someone to come out now and look at the work that was done in 15. I am so, and when I heard my brother spoke just now, I said, wait a minute, I'm not the only one. So, you know, when we talk about the contractors coming in, they really and truly need to be supervised properly. Not just to have, I'm not sure whether it's a friend who is the supervisor or whatever it is that, you know, able to pass these, you know, work and so forth. Because now, the other day I applied, and ABCD wanted to blow my insulation in. And listen, they said that they upgraded my electricity. In the hallway, now we have lights. The moment you walk in, the lights comes on, and so forth and so forth. They put the meters outside. And when ABCD came in the other day, they said, well, the knob and tubing, we can't give you insulation because the knob and tubing, they're there. And I'm saying, so when I called, they told me, well, your work has been done since so forth, and within a year, you should have reported it. So I'm very happy to be here today. And this is my reward today, to know that, you know, you guys are looking into things. Thank you. And have a blessed one, everyone.
Thank you. And if you would stay and give us your contact information so the city could follow up about that knobbing tube left in your house, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken before who'd like to speak now? Who has not spoken before? Anybody who's spoken before who'd like to speak very briefly for a minute? Yes. Yes. And we'll have folks use the other microphone. Apparently the volume is a little bit better on that microphone over here. Yes, please. Again, we'll just remind people to be about a minute.
I just wanted to say that when the contractors came to my house, I also had a major leak in the basement. My pipes had froze a couple years ago. They came, I thought, oh my goodness, this is gonna be a major project. And the light in my garage had busted out in the pipes, and I had a rotor to come out, and I said, and then they quote the price, and they were just talking about what would it have to happen. They're going to have to cut through the wall to break through. And I just thought, okay, this is going to be a big production. And so when the contractors came to my house to do the work, I just didn't think it was going to be done. But they got the job done. And I was pleased, I was happy, and everything is working fine for me. So that's what I wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more for a minute and then respond. And go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Real briefly, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. I'm glad to hear that the city is taking it somewhat serious and implementing things to change, but one of the questions I have is, I know things are different, what you have and what the process is on paper compared to what actually happens. And like the young lady stated earlier, I don't know if it's the friendships that are between the contractors and some of the city employees, or if it's just that they work together. And I don't want to implement any or say anything, but it just seems like that was the issue with my mother, communication. It seemed like whenever my mother pushed back, she was double teamed or tag teamed by the city and the contractor. In my case, it wasn't necessarily even the subcontractors. It was the employees of the actual general contractor. So when they speak of the subcontractors, we only had two, which was I think the electrician and someone else, which were licensed. But the workers who came in that actually worked for the general contractor were not licensed, were not certified, and were not professionals. They admitted this to me with themselves. I don't know where they came from or where he got them from or how long they've been working with the company, but I think that's another issue too, because the subcontractors is one thing, and when we mentioned this before at a meeting with Katie Marcion and a lot of other people, their response was, well, we really don't have anything to hold them accountable. Everything goes through the general contractor. So I just think that's another issue. I don't know if there's something that you can do as far as the actual workers and what their responsibilities are, if they're supposed to be certified, licensed.
Thank you. So if you'd have some responses, and then I think Councilor Campbell has a couple more.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I felt as if the person who was supposed to be working on my behalf worked for the contractor, not for me.
Thank you.
So if I could just, I guess my final comments today is, we're always strive to be better, and I'm sort of distressed to hear these cases. I'm working personally with a few of the homeowners that are not happy right now, and hopefully we'll get resolutions soon. But going forward, if anyone has any issue, we will dispatch myself, senior staff, we will figure out a solution. It's a great program. I don't want anyone watching this hearing to not call. That's my fear, because the vast majority of cases and times, the work gets done, it's high quality, it's a lifesaver. In those cases where for whatever reason, the job has not gone as we would all like, you have my word as director of the department that we will get to the bottom of it and we'll get it resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Campbell?
Thank you, Chief Dillon, and I want to also be mindful of folks' time. Just a couple more things, and maybe this is more of a comment than question, is, look forward to working with all of you guys on, as we go through budget cycle again, not just more funding for the program, but specifics around how we hold general contractors or subcontractors accountable? What kind of human capital does this department need? The person that is going through case by case to figure out the licensing issues, I can't imagine what that feels like. What technology is needed to make it easy, I don't know, but there has to be, of course, ways to improve all of this. And there are some things you're already doing. So how might you be able to do that better if you had more resources available specifically for these programs, and maybe even specifically just for the programs that serve our seniors, to get at better accountability. I also want to just stress, and this is sort of twofold, and maybe this is a question too, is the first piece is, one of the things we heard quite a bit is communication. So communication really around the financing. We had a meeting with some seniors, and some said, I understood what was before me and I signed. Many did not, though. So my question really is, what's the process and what's the conversation with the senior, particularly around the loan? There was a woman whose father, I want to say father, had passed, but then the loan was still on the house. She didn't know how to deal with that after the fact. It doesn't go away. And so she said, if my father probably understood more of that, he probably wouldn't have participated, knowing his health concerns, who knows, to leave that burden behind. So what's the conversation around the financing piece of this with the senior and maybe even someone who lives in the household with them?
Do you want to go there? Sure. So when the senior has to meet with our program manager at closing, so when they're signing their loan documents, during that time we have the scope and the terms and conditions of the loan they need to sign, and we have disclosures that are attached to the promissory note and the mortgage that goes with the loan. So we do explain all of that, but we can always do a better job, and that's why we've decided that needs to be done probably 3 times. Probably the last time should be at the closing, right? So the first time should be when a project manager or a construction supervisor goes out to the home and is looking at the scope of what needs to be done. We need to do that then and describe the program in very specific terms then. So that would be the first time. The second time is probably after they've been approved for their application, they're really enrolled in the program. We should probably do it again and say, these are the terms of the program, this is a loan, what part of it is a loan, what part of it is a grant. But we're thinking 3 times, not once, is a better way to go, especially when the project is bigger and when it's a senior project that involves a grant portion and a loan portion that's complicated just for even staff to figure out. So it's we understand being a homeowner, all that information being thrown at you plus the work is complicated. So we're changing the way that we do business, and we'll try to do a better job going forward.
And look forward to continuing that conversation. Sure. That's good to hear, and I think it also adds. Councilor Flynn's points add to the mix, which is we also have a lot of seniors that speak different languages. English is not the first, and signing these documents can be very daunting. You want the work done, and that's the end goal, but not necessarily being able to fully understand the weeds. So. We'll continue the conversation about how we might be helpful in helping you strengthen that process. And then my last piece is the sort of complaint process itself for the small number of cases, when you think about the large number of cases, for the small number of cases that come up where something has gone wrong, we all agree this has gone terribly wrong. Is there a complaint process, or how do we track our responsiveness to folks? Obviously, we're doing it now with Salesforce and the contractors, which is fantastic, because that's a big piece too, the delay in getting back to folks, whether there's a way in which you can complain online, or do you have to phone your counselor, or can you phone someone through 311, just so that the complaint process is uniform, it's more responsive, and that it gets to a solution quicker or sooner than later.
Okay. I think we take complaints in many different forms. So, your staff is welcome to call us, and when you need help with something too. And I know that a lot of counselors' offices call us on a regular basis for assistance. So we take complaints or requests for help that way. If the senior is complaining and they maybe don't feel comfortable talking to the program manager or the construction supervisor, that is a good point. We should tell them that there is that next person to call. So if it's Katie Marcial, who is in charge of the program managers, or Richard, who's in charge of the construction specialists, maybe that's let them know that there's that second person, that second level that they can go to if they're not satisfied with the answers that they get from the folks that are meeting with them every day. But that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something, if this already happened, something that can be written where, as they embark on this project, as things come up, and you don't feel, safe telling the contractor or the people on site, but you need to call someone else, who those people might be. It might be the elderly commission, who knows? But having that document attached to all the other important documents, just so they have a list of who can I call as I'm going through something that may not be right to me or feel right to me.
That's good.
I have asked Richard O'Brien, who's knows the program inside and out, that if we get calls of complaints, that he personally or Maureen or even I will go out to try to resolve it, because problems don't get better with age. They just get worse. That's right. So that's right. I think we're all very committed that if a problem it has to be addressed, then we need to get out there. We need to get out there personally and see to it.
And I'll just add, just for the sake of time, I appreciate folks coming. It's not easy to share your story, whether it's good or bad, or from the perspective of the folks who participated. But those who had a tough time, it's still very emotional for many folks for them to come and still share. I appreciate that. I know Councilor Edwards does as well. This helps us then not only holds us accountable, including us, but to strengthen a program that we think is very important to the seniors in the city of Boston. So we'll continue the conversation with the respective departments around how we can work with you guys to strengthen it, not just during budget cycle, of course, but even before. So thank you guys as well for coming to the hearing today.
And we would be glad to meet with your staff monthly, or meet with all counselor staff monthly, just have kind of make sure that if you have any issues or problems, that we get it taken care of, so that how they're resolved. So we're happy to come over and talk with everybody on a monthly or weekly basis, whatever you'd like.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamil. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
And again, I just want to echo the thank you to all the seniors who are here today, telling the truth, the good, the bad, the ugly. If we truly believe in this program and really want to make it the best we possibly can, we need to hear about all experiences. So thank you for telling that. Having gone through my own renovations, I completely empathize with the amount of stress it is to have open walls, the stress to see work have to get redone, but also I understand the joy of seeing something completely fixed that had been annoying you the whole time, and how it feels to have a beautiful home to come home to. And so I want to say that this hearing was about making this program better. This is not a question of whether the program should be here or not, or whether people should call or not. This is about making sure that we see all aspects of it, learn from the points that we need to learn from, and grow from the points we need to grow from. I'm excited to be a supporter of this program. I look forward to enhancing it. I hope, honestly, I heard the number for the minor repair. I think it's kind of low, only 1,200 broken toilets, 1,200. I mean, these are small things. I would think seniors should absolutely use that program, especially to get the program, to get to the problems while they're small, because a broken toilet leads to something else, leads to something else, leads to something else. So I look forward to working with the local organizations like NOAA to get out there to even enhance about that program. You want to get it while it's small, because you're right, nothing gets better with age, and nothing gets better while we avoid it. So I'm glad we didn't avoid that tough conversation today. I know things will get better. I want to again thank everyone for coming out here today. I look forward to monthly check-ins.
Sounds good.
Monthly moments. And I look forward to continually hearing from folks how the problems are or are not being resolved. So thank you again. With that, I'm going to conclude this hearing. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.